And so, for those who are new to me, my name is Mary Grace Gardner. I'm a college admissions and career coach, founder of the Young Professionista. I help hardworking students with getting into their ideal college and ambitious professionals with landing their dream role. And with me, I have Chris Siedem. He is founder and president of Perfect College Match. And so, let me share with you some more background about Chris. He was a three-sport standout at West Hampton Beach High School in New York. And he went on to pitch at Division III Haverford College in Pennsylvania and later obtained his PhD in chemistry at UCLA, my alma mater, and spent nearly 20 years in research in the pharmaceutical industry, where he was an author or inventor on more than 30 scientific publications and patents. Chris has coached athletes for over 15 years at high school and club levels, has 8 years of direct personal experience with the athletic recruiting process, and is one of those rare individuals who has experience not only as a player and as a coach, but as a parent as well. He has sent both his daughter and son on to play in the college ranks. And prior to founding his company, he served as a scouting director for one of the major athletic recruiting services. In the past 4+ years, he has directly assisted close to over 200 student athletes in finding the right opportunities in college. And so when I saw some questions in the how to get into college group about preparing for potential college athletics and what should students do to prepare for that, especially in light of today with what's happening with the pandemic, I thought of no one else to ask other than Chris, who is an expert in this field. So Chris, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mary Grace. Always good to be here.
Awesome. So tell us more about how do you support student athletes?
So there's probably a variety of ways that I could ask that question, but I'm going to do it I could answer that question, but I'm going to do it this way, I think. What most of us do, and you kind of highlighted it, I think of the most important part of my background, honestly, is that I've been through it 3 times as a parent. My 3 kids have all gone on to play in college. What most of us are doing in youth athletics today, which is something I sometimes call the vortex. Right? Sports is a lot different than it was when I was a kid. We're out there committing a lot of time and energy and effort. We are spending a lot of family resources. We are traveling all over the country. We have private coaches. We're doing a lot of things that we want them to do. But the reality is, probably better than 95% of the time, we have our fingers crossed. We have our fingers crossed that someone is going to tap us on the shoulder one day and say, hey, I have a scholarship for you. And the reality is that's kind of like buying Powerball tickets. And, I buy a ticket every once in a while. I just might win $150 million. But overall, it's not the best strategy, right, to hope. And so what we tell kids is you need a plan designed to enable your college goals. Then because you're 16 or 17 and you don't even know what you don't know because you're not supposed to, you need more than the plan. You need coaching and guidance and mentorship on the execution of that plan. So how do we support kids? That's a good way of saying it. We give them a plan to enable their goals, and then we walk closely with them so that they execute on those goals, execute on that plan, and they achieve those goals. Is that a good answer for now?
Yeah, that's perfect. So tell us more about what is it that you're seeing in terms of how COVID-19 is impacting high school athletics? What is that looking like right now?
Well, first of all, there's just a lot of uncertainty, right? It's not specific to athletics, right? Even if you're a student or you have a student that's not an athlete, this whole college thing is just full of uncertainty right now. Right? I feel bad for kids. If it wasn't complicated enough, we just said, okay, well, here's 2020, let's go. So uncertainty is the first thing. In the high school landscape right now, one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of sports being moved around. And many states, fall football is being moved to the spring, for example. A lot of parents in particular are worried, what does that do to my son's opportunities, right? If he's a senior, class of 2021, and his football season got moved to the spring, are there even going to be spots available for him? Or are there going to be scholarships available? Because football, a little bit unique as a sport that's driven principally still from the high school process as opposed to the club or travel process. So Another thing we're seeing there, which schedules being moved around, is some overlap between the new high school schedule and your club or travel schedule. And what is that? What position does that put a kid in? Do I have to choose between high school and travel? And what are the impacts and implications of that? Um, just in general, even going back to the class of 2020, uh, the pandemic has caused a lot of change. Division One, for example, is still in a dead period. If you have a potential Division One athlete, what does that mean? An NCAA Division One dead period. Division Two recently announced that they had been in a quiet period. At the end of this month, we're going to go back to normal recruiting, whatever that means. So there's been a lot of change, and a lot of families don't know how to handle that. They've been told in some cases over these last several months, recruiting has stopped. Well, recruiting never stops until we know for sure that we're never going to play college games again. College coaches have roster spots to fill. They have games to win. Recruiting never stops. You just got to know how to change along with what's going on.
Right. I think, like you're mentioning, a lot of the knee-jerk reaction is that everything is pausing, but when you're thinking about the longer-term process of recruiting, there's anticipation that sports will come back sometime, right? We don't know if it's a couple months from now, a year from now, but it's still going to happen. So for folks who are feeling like, okay, let's just give up, it's probably not the right approach.
You know, for some kids, that may indicate that they're maybe not quite as committed as they need to be, and that's okay. Um, but that uncertainty does bother me. I feel for kids and families. I see a lot in the in the last class of 20, in the class of 21, even in the class of 22. I have to be fair. I'm not that worried about 23s and 24s yet. But the 21s and the 22s, a lot of what they're doing is they're kind of sitting around doing nothing because they don't know what to do. They don't know what they can do. Seems like we're all just sitting here looking at each other. And they've heard that, oh, recruiting has stopped. It hasn't stopped. Um, Coaches have to change how they recruit. For example, video is much more important. Live stream has become important depending on your sport. We have to change along with it. But I can tell you, coach, coaches have been contacting me throughout the process and saying, hey, man, I've been chained to my desk for 4 months. Can you send me something? I got to look at something. I got to do something. So they want to hear from kids. The kids have got to know what to do to get out there and get on the board and follow up on it.
Right. Right. So tell us then, with that in mind, for students who dream of pursuing college athletics, and so it's still something they're passionate about, still something that they want to do, what should they be doing right now to stand out considering the current circumstances?
One is communicate, reach out. I mean, to some degree, that's no different. I get asked all the time, what is the biggest mistake that kids make in the recruiting process? Well, the biggest one is this. They don't follow up effectively. They don't know how. It's not their fault. They're only 17. Most adults, honestly, are not real good at follow up. So how good is a 16 or a 17-year-old kid? And it's even more so now, right? During this unusual time, this time of uncertainty, if you can show me as a recruit, as a prospective student athlete, that I'm still working hard, okay? I might not be able to train in my gym, but I'm working. I'm doing online training. I'm working with my coach. I'm working with my trainer. I'm getting whatever reps in that I can. One of my athletes is a basketball player down in Miami. I mean, love this guy because he has boundless energy. He trains every day. He literally, as of this moment, doesn't know when his next game is going to be. Is it going to be high school? Is it going to be AAU? What is it? But he trains every day with his trainer. He shoots and works out every day. I even have to tell the kid, dude, you can take a day off. It's okay. He just doesn't want to. But if you can do that, if you can show me you're invested in the process, I really do want to play, send me whatever video you can get, even if you're not playing games. Coaches are a lot more flexible right now in terms of what they're willing to look at. That's one way to stand out right now.
And so for those of you who are watching this live, let us know in the comments, either in Zoom, let us know what your questions might be. And if you are watching this on Facebook Live, let us know in the comments as well, and we'll make sure to bring up those questions. And if you're watching this on the replay, still comment below so that we can come back and answer questions. Chris is also part of the How to Get into College Facebook group, so we can come back to any of those questions. So I love that there's still options. It's not like you could just give up, right? You should still be honing in your craft, honing in your skills, still out there communicating, because on the other end, there's still those recruiters who are still looking. It's not like they've stopped totally working, right? They are still looking out there. There's things that you can do to still stand out. And so what words of advice do you have right now for high school athletes who are struggling with a canceled season? What words of advice do you have for them?
Perspective is the key to the universe. Try to have perspective. I know it's hard. My son went through this, class of 2020. I got to watch him have his entire senior baseball season canceled. It wasn't easy to watch. I'm sure it was a lot harder for him to go through it. On that line of perspective, everyone's heard the expression, well, we're all in the same boat. And recently I saw someone say something better than that, which I've sort of adopted, which is, we're not in the same boat, we're in the same storm. And we're all in the same storm, the storm. We're all in it. And so when you're being impacted by the crisis, when your season is being canceled or put on hold, there's this tendency to think that you're in it alone. You're not in it alone. Everyone's in the same storm. The boat you choose to get into can be critical. How you choose to navigate and steer that boat can be critical, but it's not over. You can do something. In a way, a good analogy is like an ACL injury, right? If you're a junior or a senior and you tear your ACL, some kids are going to give up. And for some of them, that's okay, right? It's just in the scope of their life, it's not worth it to go through the rehab and try to come back. But for a lot of kids, that's not enough. The game's too important. The opportunity to play and get your education is too important. They're going to get to work and they're going to grind and they're going to do whatever they can do to create that opportunity and seal the deal on that opportunity. And this is kind of similar. I know it's rough, but there are things you can do. Like we said, coaches are still looking. They're going to have to win games. They need the kids they need to win those games. I will emphasize, and again, it's no different in my view for a non-athlete. The last 2 years, and I'm kind of going back to Varsity Blues here a little bit, but the last 2 years, in my view, have emphasized that proper guidance and expertise has never been more valuable than it is right now. Right? How do we navigate these times?
And I wanted to add there. So where should students be turning to for some of this guidance? Because there's some mixed communication. Some of them might be just kind of waiting things out. Where should they be turning to for information?
So I do think it's hard. Or personally, I think it's hard as a parent 3 times over. You're in the information age, so all you need is a laptop and 3 search terms. You'll get buried in information. But you have to decode and decipher it and figure out how to put it to work for your kid. And that's not always easy. On top of that, there's 3 times the misinformation. And often there's someone over here who seems trustworthy and credible, says to do this, and then someone over here who seems just as trustworthy and just as credible that says to do the opposite. So it can be hard to figure out what to do. I do think you can do it on your own. I'm not saying you can't do it on your own. The information is there. And as parents, if you have the relevant background, then you can help your child navigate the process. But I do think it can be difficult. I do think it can be time intensive. Some of the mistakes that get made are an over-reliance on people that seem to us as if they ought to know, and they don't, or they just don't have the resources. So coaches sometimes, in my area, a lot of people think my coach is going to take care of it, whether it's a high school coach or a club coach, and most of the time they can't. No, a lot of times through no fault of their own, right? Your high school coach, more than likely, already has a full-time job, already has his or her own kids and his or her own family, and maybe doing all that she can or that he can. But for most of us, not named Bo Jackson or Mike Trout or whomever, that's not going to be enough. So Who do you find? If you're lucky, you got the right club, you got the right coaches that you can rely on to get some guidance. If you need more, then maybe at least in the athletic side, you try to find someone like me, or on the non-athletic side, someone like Mary Grace that can help you navigate.
So, Chris, if folks want to learn more about your services, your company, where can they find out more information?
So I'm pretty easy to find as long as you spell my name properly. Siedem. You can find me on Facebook. You can find our company page on Facebook, Perfect College Match. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter, and you can find us on www.college. Gosh, I don't even know my own website. www.perfectcollegematch.com. Or you could always reach out to Mary Grace and she could put you in touch with me.
Chris, thank you so much for these insights. I know that it's been such a confusing time in the pandemic for all things related to everything, I suppose, and especially regarding high school, preparing for college, and particularly on athletics and what students should be able to do. I think you gave some real actionable advice that people can consider for this year now that we're heading into the school year, and give some hope to those athletes who have dreams of going into college and pursuing athletics as well. There are definitely options. So if you are wanting to pursue that, check out Chris's website. We'll make sure to include those links in the comments below. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Mary Grace, anytime.